Hello, Jack. Nice to see you.
Hello, Simon.
I'm glad
Very
you could
nice,
join.
very nice to meet you live and
Fun.
in person, or
Finally.
actually not in person, live.
Fantastic. Let's see who else will be joining us. All right. I'll give it a little bit more time and see,
Okay.
and then we can maybe start.
All right. Are you in Germany now?
I am indeed. I'm in Berlin. Hello, Jack. Nice to see you.
Hello, Simon.
I'm glad
Very
you could
nice.
join. Okay. I'm having a lot of extra sounds as if somebody was trying to join, but I don't see anyone trying to join. Oh no, okay, we have a couple more people. Fantastic. Okay, I'm going to let them in and start the whole thing. So, see you in a moment.
Very good.
Hello everyone, thanks for joining.
Hello,
Hi, Simon.
nice to
All
meet you
right,
all.
excellent. All right, at this time, I'm quite committed to trying to make this whole thing run on time. So, let's try this today. I'm going to start the clock and let's get going. All right. Well, first of all, thank you all for joining. Hello, everyone, and welcome to What About Men, an online discussion group on hot topics running across political divides and hopefully bringing something new into our discussion. I'm Dr. Simon Vogt. I'm a philosopher, lecturer, and director of Pathforge. It's a nonprofit organization which delivers research-based guidance on forging meaningful, purpose-driven lives and hopefully a fair and equal world. And today we will be talking about loneliness, love, and friendship. I wanted to start the series with this topic because I just think it's so important to many of us. And it seems like the rules of dating and relationships have changed massively over the recent years. And many people are just confused. But, what do you think? So before we begin, just a quick note that this session is being recorded and that it may be shared publicly. And by joining, you're consenting to being included in the recording. So please keep this in mind. Please keep your camera on to kind of foster good communication. It's always nicer to talk to someone you can see. And if by any chance you don't want to do this, then you can just join our live stream on YouTube. It's linked in the chat if you want to have that. And if you are watching us on the live stream, then feel free to ask questions in the chat as well, and we will be bringing them up in the discussion. All right, so that's from me. Now over to you. Thank you all for joining us today. Would you like to quickly introduce yourselves? Just to keep it really quick, maybe I have this fun rule for this, which is that you have exactly as much time to introduce yourself as you can do in one breath. So take a deep breath and try to say who you are, where you come from, and why you're here. And as soon as you run out of breath, you run out of time. All right. So, anyone wants to go first?
Well, I can start.
Go for it.
No one wants to stop. Can you hear me?
Yep.
All right, so let me take one deep breath. So yeah, welcome everyone, or nice to meet you everyone. My name is Patrick. I'm in my late 30s, and I've been involved in all these issues of men's issues, men's personal development, as a sort of mentor informally, organizing a meetup group that is not specifically focused on this topic, but also the Jordan Peterson Berlin group. And so, yeah, this is a topic that is very dear to me, and I'm looking forward to learning from all of you and sharing ideas and exchange thoughts and notes.
Thanks very much. Who would like to go next? Go for it, Robin.
Hey, hello everyone. Yeah, I'm Robin. I don't have any special experience in this field. I have taken part in sharing circles, but mostly they were not men only. And
All right, thanks. Jack, would you like to share something?
Okay. Yeah, I'm hyperventilating. So I'm Jack, and I'm on the East Coast of the United States, not too far from Washington, D.C. And I'm 74 years old. I've been very much involved in male gender issues since 1983 when I started the radio show. Got a degree in social work because I care about the issues that I see being caused by not paying attention to male gender issues. How's that?
Very well, thank you very much. And Julian, you just joined us. Thanks very much for joining. If you'd like, you have one breath to introduce yourself. Say who you are, where you're coming from, and why you're here. Take a deep breath, and as soon as you run out of breath, that's your time up.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hello. My name is Julian. I live in Berlin, and I saw your invitation, Simon, and it's a relevant topic for me as I moved multiple times a couple of years before. So I was just looking forward for the opportunity to exchange perspectives. So yeah, I'm happy to be here.
Fantastic. Thanks very much, everyone. All right. So, to keep things going, this group is about sharing and forging opinions on difficult topics, and we will read two sets of opinion pieces. And basically, the idea is that one of them comes from a more conservative outlet, the other one comes from a more liberal outlet. And here is the selection for today. So that's some readings that I have found, which I think are quite interesting. We will have 15 minutes reading one, and then 40 minutes discussing it. Then we'll take a 5-minute break, and then we'll repeat with the other. And which one goes first? Well, I don't know. Let fate decide. Heads, the first one. Tails, the second one. All right? Heads. All right. So we're reading the first two that are in here. So why are so many young people single? And then let men speak for men. I'll post them in the chat with the links right now for you, so you'll be able to easily get them. Here they are. And yeah, let's get going. So is there anything else I wanted to say before that? No. Let's go to reading. All right. So I'm starting
sorry.
the counter. We've got 15 minutes.
I see links to two texts.
Yeah, so basically what I did in that is both those texts are about 5-minute long read. And we have about 15 minutes to read, so we can read both of them, and then basically we can discuss them. They kind of are interesting together to read as well, I think.
Yeah, which one should we read first now? That's
whichever you prefer.
I see. Okay, Thank you.
Sure. All right, so first reading round. If you're watching this at a later time or you're streaming it, feel free to pause and read and then resume the video later on, and we will get on with reading now. All right, 14 and a half minutes left.
Simon, it looks like the Spectator article might be behind a paywall.
Yeah, I was checking that. All you need to do is you need to click down below and you get 2 articles from Spectator for free. So there is just like a link, you click, you basically do that and you get it for free.
Okay.
I think you get 2 articles per month from the Spectator for free. I hope that's all right.
Okay. Actually, clicking back to it, I think I don't even have to. Oh, no, I do have to it says register for 2 articles a week. So I'll have to create an account.
Just give it a fake email, whatever.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, this is our time up. Did you guys manage to finish reading everything? All good? Fantastic. All right, I am going to skip to the next thing. So here are the rules of the discussion. Basically, I wanted to have some basic discussion rules to make sure that everyone will be having a chance to share their thoughts. So basically, if you want to speak, raise your hand. We will go in the order of raised hands. Simple as that. Second rule, you will have 2 minutes to speak, no more, just so to make sure that somebody doesn't keep talking and talking. And once you have spoken 3 times, I will ask you to hold off until everybody else has a chance to speak, and then you can talk again, once again, to make sure that there isn't just one person talking all the time. And then, needless to say, this is a space of respectful discussion, and I ask you all to simply be kind to one another. So that's that. Let's begin. Anyone would like to start? All right, go for it.
So, first of all, I have a question. Which one of these two do you categorize as conservative and the other one as progressive?
All right, so basically the idea is that these two were the set of the conservative readings, more conservative readings.
Oh, okay.
And then in the second hour, we will read the set that was from more
okay, now I get
liberal
it.
outlets.
All right. Because I didn't see too much difference in the tone.
No, definitely not. They're both from the same kind of feel, and then in the next hour we will read things from a more liberal outlet. So, what's your thoughts?
Are you asking me again? Or?
I mean, whoever wants to go first. You raised your hand, so you've got.
Well, I just wanted to know. That was like a technical question, so
sure.
I'm allowing the others also to join.
All right, Jack, go for it.
Thank you, Simon. Thank you for doing this, by the way. So far, it's really been fun, and it's only been a few minutes. But it's great to have you taking care of all this. I would like to ask if the assignment right now is for us to discuss in what ways we agree or disagree with the writings, or are we supposed to comment on what the writers wrote?
I think you can discuss in which ways you agree, what you found interesting about the writings, what resonates with you, for example. Can you tell that I'm doing this for the first time? Thank you very much, everyone, for those questions. Next time I'm doing it, I will be so much better prepared for this. Excellent, thank you. But yes, I mean, anything that you have found interesting in those texts and that you would like to comment on, that maybe resonates with you in some way, that you disagree with or agree with. Yeah.
How about just would you be interested in my reaction? Just what
Absolutely,
do I think?
Please.
These pieces make me think is the answer to why. What occurs to me from reading these two pieces is that dating just anymore, maybe it's because I remember it back in the 60s and 70s, it's just not fun anymore. It's dangerous. It's scary. It's a risk. It's a high pressure, high stakes chance to screw things up. And people really are being terribly unspontaneous in their approaches to dating. That's the way it seems to me. It's just not fun.
Interesting. Thanks very much. Anyone has any opinions on that? What do you guys think? Are you dating right now? Go for it.
Yeah, I'd actually like to follow up with Jack. Thanks for first of all, thanks for joining from a different time zone, I guess, and sharing your perspective from your advanced life experience, which is like, I think that is actually the fact that you are here already is a great signal and an indicator of, or maybe like one one possible approach of what might be needed. I think these intergenerational exchanges play a viable role that I think young men often lack. These role models or these mentor roles, whom they can approach with a question of life advice, of experience, of guidance. So in that sense, you're already doing us all a huge favor. And second of all, yeah, actually, I wanted to dig deeper on your experience of how, you know, if you don't mind me being so straightforward. So how do you, what are your insights into the modern dating situation? I would assume that at your age, that's all behind you. So I would be curious to hear that.
Yeah, it's not so far behind me actually, because I am married now. I didn't get married till I was 60 years old. So I was dating into my late 50s. And so I could see it in the last 10, I've been married almost 13 years. I can see that before I found my wife, things had changed, even among us older folks who remember what it was like in our earlier days when things were more fun. I think a lot of us were sort of befuddled by, well, we would call it political correctness. We would call it people being snowflakes. We would be aware of the possibility that people try to take advantage out of being offended, all of which serves to not make meeting a new person fun when you perceive a very strong possibility of risk of ugliness and meanness and accusations and just not very joyful. You know, and why do you go on a date? You go on a date because you have hope.
Well said, yeah.
All right. Anyone else wanted to chip in on that?
I wanted to say, I read only part of one of the articles and the other one I didn't read. And I just thought, I hope we get to hear a lot from the more experienced folks here, and we don't talk a lot about the articles. So please go ahead and continue.
Well, look, on the other hand, you guys, can do me a favor by talking to me about what's going on now, because what was going on 30, 40 years ago is pretty soon going to be irrelevant to the problems of living human beings. So in my work of being a writer and a podcaster, talking about these things, I need to get some assurance that I know what the hell is going on with young people. And I might have some ideas, but I don't know for sure. So please talk. I need to learn from you too.
So I might jump in on this and maybe say that I can totally empathize with what you were saying about it, like the whole thing not being fun or it being more difficult to find fun in it. I think so when I hear things like that as a philosopher, I always like a light bulb goes in my head going like, what does that mean, fun? Because being fun is not a property of a thing that is just like only has this thing is fun and that's it. This thing is fun for somebody, right? It's a relation. Being fun is a relation between an object that is fun and the person that is fun too, right? And I think it's really interesting from this perspective to ask, okay, so it's not fun for whom, right? And I think that perhaps it is, well, obviously we are all here, a bunch of dudes talking about this. We can agree on this and we can go like, okay, it's not so fun maybe for people like us, right? But I think it's a different question than to ask, well, maybe like it is thanks to this, it's more fun to somebody else, right? Or maybe like a part of this whole change was well, I don't think it's particularly controversial to say that women have complained for quite a while that men have not been treating them particularly well in relationships and in dating, and having some extra safeguards or something like that might make the whole thing a bit more fun to them, right? And again, it's kind of like fun to whom. And I guess the question to you guys is, I don't know, what is good trade-off there, or like, how do you perceive it as well? We've got a hand up. Would you like to
Yeah.
to that? I know that I stole the mic for a moment.
No, of course. Could you repeat the last bit that you just said?
Well,
Your
I'm
question?
just curious how you see how you perceive this being fun or being less fun as a thing that is less fun to you, perhaps. But do you like, what do you think about this being more or less fun to other people as well? Or like, how does this dynamic
Other
shift?
men or also other women? Like, what perspective are you looking for? Yeah. Well, I mean, we can also talk about, of course, the female perspective, but I think I would try to focus on the male because, I mean, this is a group focusing on that, as I understand it. I mean, going back to the articles, especially the first one, from the critic, I found it a very how you say extensive piece that covered, I think, a lot of ground. Not everything. I think it left a few gaps, but I think so far with most of what I read there, I would agree. It's a reasonable analysis. The fun. I mean, fun. How do you define fun? Is fun something hedonistic? Is it pleasure, or is fun meaning? I think we could first argue on what we were talking about. If we're talking about, in general, having a sort of prospect of success as a young man to find a potential partner, I can imagine that for a lot of men it is less fun, or let's say, I will not use the word fun. I will rather say it's frustrating, probably. I think there's much more frustration. We could talk about reasons for that, because I still think men, it's up to men also to fix it for themselves. I think I'm not a fan of victim blaming or of victimization, self-victimization. I'm a fan of agency, of ownership, of responsibility, and of changing your own fortune, which, of course, is facilitated through supportive network of brothers, of mentors, all of that. So that definitely plays a role. But from my life, I can also remember times where I was not happy with where my life was going, or in what condition I was, even just physically, like struggling with overweight, for instance, as a teenager. And at one point, just taking the decision to change that and starting working out, changing my diet a little bit without any guidance, actually, just stumbling one step at a time ahead. Sometimes 2 steps back, sometimes 1 step forward, learning through that. And I think a lot of men are stuck in a position where it's like they say getting from 0 to 1 is the hardest, and I can definitely empathize with that, because I think it gets easier once you get going, once you have maybe certain level of success, getting a job, getting an education, developing your personality, all of that.
I'm gonna stop
You're
you
raising
there
hand, yeah?
just for a moment,
Yeah.
because let's try to stick to the 2-minute rule roughly. But yeah, thanks very much for sharing. This is super interesting. Guys, Julian, Robin, do you also have something to add as well?
Yeah, I might jump in here. So, not sure what to talk about yet. Like, I feel like we kind of have different topics now that we are talking about. I'm not sure if I should comment on the text I read or what the other man talked before so far. So yeah, maybe you can provide some guidance what we can focus on.
Mm-hmm. I think it's really interesting I think the topic of like this being fun, or for whom it's fun, and like how did this change over time, is really interesting. And I think one of those texts, the one about let men speak, was very much about this. It's just like the discussion about how dating should be, according to this text, has been kind of dominated by female voices, right? And it's kind of like this discussion about, that's how I understood the text, is that the way things are, the way people are expected to act and all of this is determined by, or the way men are expected to act is not determined by men in the public discussion, right? I think this is an interesting point, and I wonder, and one of the points the article makes as well is that the rise of the more kind of extreme guys, and is because they feel kind of frustrated that they don't have a voice, that it has become harder to them, and they don't, and people don't listen to them. So I think that the question that, or the point that Jack was raising earlier about this being not fun, and there being, according to this text, like a clear demographic of people for whom it's not fun, all of those guys, right? And all of those guys being really frustrated because it's not fun for them. They're saying it's not fun for them, but people don't listen to them particularly because the conversation is dominated by somebody else. I think that's an interesting point in general. And one of the things that it's being said in there is that all of those guys are tired of being told that there are no rules to follow and they should just kind of work it all out themselves. And they go like, well, we actually want some rules to follow. And then those people who give them rules are the people who've got their attention. I don't know, what do you guys think? Is like, do you sympathize with this feeling of like not being listened to, or like not having rules to follow maybe, or something like that? So, Jack, you've been talking a couple of times before. I'll see if other people want to talk first. All right.
Okay, good. That's really the first thing I was going to ask. I will take my hand down.
Well, for me, it's kind of hard to say how fun was it in the past and how fun is it now. I cannot compare because I have not been there in the past. But I have the general idea that there is a lot of fear around now that was not so much there. And to me, in many ways, it's also a bit, I mean, men are dangerous to women in some way, but I think the statistics generally say that happens like in families. And I mean, like when you first get to know someone, it's probably the least likely situation where this would happen. I don't know, that's how I imagine it. And also, in my experience, I mean, I've done a lot of couch surfing where I met many people. They came to my home without knowing me. About half of them were men, half of them were women. And it was so easy. And that was some years back already. And the same thing with actually not even people coming to my home, but just meeting or even talking online. If the context is dating, there's so much more anxiety and fear and even hate. I don't know, it's really crazy, even though it's basically the same thing. I mean, it's just getting to know someone. And practically, I don't see why there would be more danger there, because it's really the same thing. Yeah, but I don't read stuff. It's only my thing. So.
All right, thanks. Any more thoughts? Go for it.
Yeah, I would actually like to ask Robin. Thanks for your contribution, first of all. But I actually had trouble following you, so I didn't get what your point exactly. Like, what is you were talking about danger, but I didn't understand how that tied into this. So, like, what do you mean with the danger, and what was your? Could you summarize it maybe in different words? I would appreciate.
I mean, I don't know what is going on, but I can just see that there's much more tension when it's about dating to meet someone else, and I assume that could have to do with perceived danger, and I've heard that from some people, but I don't know if that's
tension. Which people? It would help me understand you. Are you talking about the female or the male perspective? It's a little too.
I mean that females have fear of men.
Okay. Well, you see the tension from the female side, yeah? That's
yeah, I mean from both sides then, I guess, because maybe there it's not there and I only think it's there, and then it's only from my side. Who knows? I don't know.
I think it's very interesting as well, if I can just jump in and say that, so far we've been talking about this in a very kind of like heteronormative way, right? As in like relationships being between men and women. But I think it's quite interesting that the text, especially the spectator text, like didn't really make that much different or like distinction in there. As in, it was talking about young people just not having more relationships, regardless whether they're straight or gay or whatever else, right? And I think it's interesting as well because so in here we were kind of focusing on the idea that something has changed in this kind of social way that has made it less fun. But that text was also arguing that like, well, people just kind of lost the skill, right? People lost the skill because they just spend their lives online and they're just not like seeing other people in real life. So do you think it's to some extent like, because you're right that like the whole thing of feeling in danger or not, like it's probably better right now than it used to be. There's so much more consciousness about consent and people are much more, I don't know, just aware of those things in many ways. And yet people worry so much, or yet people still have those problems. Do you think that there might also be something to do? And I mean, it's really nice also that people are feeling more empowered to speak up when bad things happen, right? People should be able to say, hey, it's not okay that we should be afraid to go dating, right? That's great. But do you think that maybe the other text had something interesting to say about that as well, in terms of like technology just making it harder for people to develop the skills? Nodding.
I would say most people are in public are mostly on their phone, so you can't really talk to them. So that's kind of quite literally technology making it difficult.
I imagine Jack will have something to say about this topic. Go on.
Okay, for me to chime in?
Please.
Okay. It's worth wondering whether the dating scene would be even more of a desert and stressful if there were not the technologies that allow us to communicate without risk of being accused of some kind of physical malfeasance or bad behavior. Maybe without cell phones to talk to other people. And if the only way were to actually get together, maybe that would be even more risky, more dangerous, maybe less fun.
Do you guys use dating apps and dating online, or do you prefer to do that in person, old school way?
Both. We are old school way, but
Yeah. Yeah, do you think so? Interesting what you're saying, Jack, in terms of it being even more difficult that way. In what ways do you mean?
I know that well, let me say this. I think that there are plenty of ways in which women have expressed unhappiness with men in the dating scene. I think we need to open up a lot of space for men to speak about the ways in which they're unhappy with women in the dating space. And just saying that is like, oh, what kind of a guy is he? Could he be a misogynist? You know, there isn't so much encouragement and acceptance and support for men to say, yeah, I really don't know why I am expected to pay for the date. And that's really one thing I would like to see different in women, because it's an expectation that if we go forward, I'm the one who's supposed to be making the money. That sort of limits me in a way it doesn't limit you. So I guess what I would say, bottom line, is that men would like, I'm thinking, you would tell me, you guys know better than I do. I would think that young men are looking for a sense of equality in relationships. And when it's only the woman who's making the rules, equality is not going to happen except by accident.
Yeah, Robin?
So I also feel frustrated with the whole dating thing, but not really with women. I'm more frustrated with the third piece here, and that's big corporations and their algorithms and whatever intentions lie behind it. Yeah, that's basically who I'm frustrated with, and whom I would like to see not be part of the game, basically.
Yeah, that's really interesting, because once again, it's kind of, I think it's when you really start thinking about those things and you dive deeper into like trying to untangle like the question of like more fun for whom, right? And when you go like, actually it's really fun for Tinder that nobody can date properly, right? Because they make a lot of money on people being on Tinder and actually not finding partners, right? So I think the question like fun for whom, I think maybe it's worth considering even from this angle. So thanks for bringing that up. Excellent. All right. Yeah. Next thought. Go for it.
All right. By the way, I just noticed it's using my alias, which is not my real name. It's Patrick, but I don't know if I can still change it mid-conversation. So just for you know, my real name is Patrick.
Thank you for the reminder. I was just like, I thought Patrick, but now I know. Thank you.
It seemed like you were struggling, yeah. So, but also for the rest of the group. So yeah, you can just call me Patrick, which is my real name. Back to conversation. Well, actually, first of all, I wanted to challenge or to push back a little bit on Jack, or like give my perspective, let's say, because I don't see it as I see it as a contribution. I'm doubtful if people really want equality. I think they want equal appreciation, but I think they want is it called complementation, like complementary coming together. And I'm actually fine with taking on more of a provider role, because I think just from biological perspective, it makes sense. The woman being more vulnerable, if there's child upbringing, it makes sense that a woman is more vulnerable, so she has to be able to rely on a man who can provide. That doesn't have to be like 100 to 0. I would actually also appreciate a partner who, if the situation arises, becomes necessary, would be able to contribute in some way. But I don't mind being more of a provider. And coming back to Robin's observations, it was about dating. Well, in my experience, these digital corporations and services, they kind of take away these spaces. And for instance, I remember my grandma telling me that how she met my grandpa was at a social dance event. So my grandpa was a great dancer. So there was a way, apparently, how he could demonstrate his his value, his attractiveness through a skill that took time to acquire. And that's what made him attractive, and that's what gave him the opportunity to meet my grandmother. And I think a lot of men are also just not active in that sense, that they are not pursuing activities that would put them in a social environment and in a place where they can demonstrate excellence or competence in some way. And I don't think apps can replicate that in any way. I think they're actually the wrong way to go.
Julian, did you also have something to add? You've been awfully quiet. It's okay, you don't need to, but I don't want to, take the mic away from you there.
So far I'm listening. Thank you.
All right. I'm going to push back on something in there, Patrick, though, because you said about assuming the kind of provider role and as this being more natural and all of this. I'm generally quite skeptical of the kind of naturalness of it. And I think it's like, we don't live in a world in which you need to fight off Viking invasions and work hard with your muscles to, we live in a world in which the most money is made with brain work or with customer service work or something like that, right? So I think that there was perhaps a time historically in which men were biologically more suited to do a certain type of providing. I just think this time has passed. It's like in today's world, and there's statistics on that as well. Like in the younger generations, women start out earning men right now, and the wage gap is actually shifting, right? So I think it's I think perhaps also goes to the question asked earlier, like fun for whom? Because then, people are looking for the sort of person, like this is a common complaint that you hear from women as well, right? And we will also read that in the text coming in the next section, which is that, they want a certain kind of man. And the kind of man who is kind of adhering to these models of being more of a protector provider, many women say they just don't want that. And that's not fun for them to be dating these sort of guys, right? And then again, it's like fun for whom? Well, yeah, I think it's a rich subject basically to kind of like go. It's not that clear cut in there. But yeah, you have a reply. Go on.
Yeah, first of all, I didn't get that last part. It's not a what? Acoustically, I didn't hear that.
I was meaning the question is like, again, fun for whom? So there is, is it fun for the women who are wanting to date guys to be dating somebody who is, styling themselves a great provider, but the woman is just like, my job allows me to provide for myself perfectly well. It's just not what I need. So, they're just unimpressed. It's not fun for them to be dating somebody like that.
Well, what I read is actually that I agree with you that these statistics that actually young, I think there's someone said it's not a gender pay gap, it's a mother pay gap. So once women become mothers, that's when they might experience actually young professional females are out earning young professional males, it seems. But actually, what I read is a lot that actually even women in a high position, they still have this desire for a man to look up to. And I mean, you're right, we don't live in these ancestral environments anymore, but these instincts were hard coded into us over millennia, over long periods of time. I don't think they go away just because the environment has changed. I mean, you could argue that it would maybe make sense, or we could develop cultural rules and norms to, let's say, encourage acting against it. But still, you see it. I mean, like the idea of hypergamy is still present, and you could expand maybe the attributes that women might find attractive to look up towards in a man. So maybe the financial, economic provision is not the only dimension. But I mean, when will you hear a woman say, "Yeah, my dream man is the man that I can provide for in every aspect. Like he's basically a baby, right? Like an infant that has to be taken care of me in any aspect." I've never heard that. So yeah, that's my take.
All right, Julian.
So yeah, all right. What I would like to bring up, I'm not sure if you feel like it's fitting well in the flow, but we're discussing a lot, I think, how we should behave in dating, or what roles and norms play into dating. But what about I think, because loneliness is also a topic of the talk. So which role does it even play to find a partner to be lonely? So maybe we can discuss also how, can we be happy without a partner, or what can we be not lonely without a partner? And what you guys maybe think on that? What I would be personally interested.
Yeah, very good question. Any thoughts in the last 6 minutes of this session? We can continue in the next one, of course. Go on, Patrick.
Thank you. I mean, I raised my hand, but I'm willing to step back if someone else has to say something, because I was just talking. But if no one else has to say, I will take the word. Well, I think the research shows that being lonely is actually a risk factor to shorten your lifespan. We are social beings. You can actually cause a psychopath who's in prison, you can cause him harm by putting him in isolation. So even someone who is completely antisocial, destructive personality, still needs human interaction. So I don't think you can argue with loneliness. I would, in my own experience, I'm someone who's actually pretty good being on my own for extended periods of time, and I think that puts me in a situation where, if I am looking for a partner, I'm not desperate. I can take it slow. I can evaluate what is who I'm getting to know. That's been different actually when I was younger, in my 20s and teens. I was completely different. I would just be happy for any sort of female attention, and would be suffering from rejection, and just basically defining my own self-worth through the lens of, is someone interested in me or not? So I think being able to deal with loneliness or solitude, maybe those are two different concepts, in a healthy way, but with the ultimate goal to get out of that. I think my experience, that's a healthy strategy, I would say.
Julian?
So, I wanted to ask more you guys, not being without social contacts, but can you imagine that maybe it's even more important to have good friends than a partner? So to put loneliness versus not having a partner, maybe it's very different. So, but maybe for you it's not, and you feel automatically lonely when you have maybe a lot of friends and nice interaction, but but not a partner, and then this is not working out at all just because of that. So that was more my question, which role having a partner plays in the whole having social context sphere, so to say.
Very good question, Robin.
So for me, there's definitely something that's more important than having a partner, which is finding a community. I want to live in a community on the countryside, intentional community kind of thing. And it's also hard. It's very different, of course, but yeah, that's to me more important. And interestingly, also, whenever I am in such a place, I feel that dating there is much easier. And it's because, if I'm not there, I'm usually in a big city, Berlin, and I don't know. To me, it's really, I think, dating there has a lot to do with using the right mind tricks, and because it's like there's so much competition, and some people just use psychologically very efficient tricks, and kind of that's how I feel. And in the community, I am basically attractive when I'm chopping wood or cooking or whatever, doing nothing that needs any special skill. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really interesting, and it's actually a good segue to the next section as well, because one of the texts we will be reading will also be about loneliness, but very much from the perspective of having friends. And I think one of those texts that we read right now was also mentioning that, what is it, 1 in 4 men don't have, or young men don't have any close friends. 1 in 5 say that nobody really knows them, and this sort of thing. I think it's really important to remember that loneliness extends far beyond just not having romantic partners and dating. And I think a lot of the time we put a lot of stress on the dating side of things and kind of expecting a partner to do all of the work on making us not lonely. Well, actually, we should potentially, there's other ways to do that, like community, like you're saying, or like what Julian was saying as well. And I think potentially that ties also with the question of fun to whom, because I guess if some guys are coming to this from the perspective of like, I'm looking for someone who will satisfy all of my, loneliness, pushing away loneliness needs, and this one person has to do all of it, and I will not have like also friends and community and all of that, then, well, that's a lot of pressure on this one person, and this one person might say, well, that's not actually fun for me, right? And then, yeah, I think that's a really, really interesting point, actually. Thank you very much for raising it. All right. I think that was a really cool discussion. Thanks very much, guys, for like kind of bringing some nuance into this. I'm really curious what you will think about the other set of readings, because they obviously take a different perspective on all of this and kind of like put the pressure on different points. So yeah, let's take 5 minutes just to. If you watched any of my videos, I'm really into tea. I need to refill my teapot. So let's take 5 minutes, breathe a little, and we'll come back to it. Does that sound all right?
Perfect idea.
Excellent.
Enjoy your tea.
All right. I'll see you in a second. All right. No.
Simon, I'm raising my hand.
Oh, please go on.
We're still in our break, right?
Yeah. 30 seconds according to
Yeah,
the
okay. I just want to say I'm really enjoying this, and I love what you're doing.
Oh,
And
thank
thank
you
you.
very much. That's really kind of you. Thanks, Jack.
No,
I'm
this,
glad that it's
this
yeah,
is,
interesting.
yes, it is. It really is. And
Fantastic.
at some point, I would love to hear the philosopher's analysis of the fun for whom question.
Yeah, gladly. Well, maybe it will come up in the discussion coming forward then.
Yeah. And also the question you raised, what is fun?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for your interest. Awesome. All right, guys.
Yeah.
Well, breaks up. Let's go to the next reading section. I already posted them in the chat. So now, oh wait, I got to the wrong slide. Here's the slide that I should be going to. So in the chat, you once again have the links. This time it's an article in The Guardian and in the Fortune Well. And well, you will notice already that they take a very different perspective. I'm curious what you think. The counter starts now. Guys, just saying as well, if you are on the almost finished reading side, then give us a thumbs up so I know in case we should move on and not wait until the end, until the canter runs out. Jack, did you want to say something or just saying okay?
Oh, I was trying to give the thumbs up. I was doing all 5 fingers up. Okay, thank you.
Julian, Patrick, what about you guys?
I'm still reading.
No worries. Take your time.
All right, now I'm done.
Julian, what about you?
Maybe 1 more minute would be awesome.
No problem. Just let us know when you're ready.
Thank you.
Julian is ready too.
Awesome. Cool. Well, let's move on then. I'm going to skip to the next slide and we're ahead of time. Fantastic. All right. So, once again, same rules as before. You can see a different perspective in there. Oh, we lost Patrick for a moment. Maybe he is rejoining and putting the... Oh, welcome back. All right. So, same as before. You can see, I hope, that those readings were also a little bit more. I really like how the discussion went the previous time, kind of leading us towards the question of friendship as well, and these readings being a bit more focused on friendship. So I'm curious, what is your take of it now? And yeah, take it away. Robin, go on.
Yeah, so I liked the mention of community, of course. To me, it's the biggest missing part in human society. It's the tribal thing, basically. And in most communities I've been to, there were lots of problems and so on. But this living together, and usually there's a focus on removing distractions like computers and phones, and so there's more of the actual social living human together part, and usually it's in nature and so on. And that's really, this alone is just feels so healthy and healing. And yeah, and it's something that just doesn't compare to, I mean, maybe it compares to having a good big family or so, I don't know, but it doesn't compare to sharing a flat in the city or something like this. Just I don't think there's anything that compares to that. And yeah, I mean, also one thing I thought about, that probably when Jack was younger, he was probably living in a bigger family, and there was probably just more social life, I imagine, than most people that grow up nowadays. If they're lucky, they have an atomic family. Okay.
I grew up in a pretty dysfunctional family, Robin. My father became an alcoholic, and in large part, seeing him not as a villain, but as a person who was suffering from societal expectations of men, especially men who've got 7 kids. It's the the reason I'm very interested in seeing what we can do to open up options for how men will find their happiness and demonstrate their worth and their love. So, yeah, there were some TV shows about happy families. Leave It to Beaver, Ozzie and Harriet. I don't know if you ever saw them over there, but yeah, there was a lot of dysfunction in American families back in the day.
And I think that also,
which is not at all to take away, Robin, from your idea that community, when it's good, is really, really good, beautiful, important. It's what makes life worth living, right?
I think just to note also, when you talk about dysfunctional families, and I mean, obviously this happens across time, but it also is related to the question, fun for whom, right? If you're in this sort of family, you're technically not lonely, but is this right? And then the question is, well, what's the worst thing, right? Is it worse to be in this sort of thing, or perhaps, risk getting in this sort of thing because of the way dating is structured, or the way, you are or you're not taking into account all of those other things that people bring into the dating scene. That's, really interesting. Thanks for mentioning. Any other thoughts? So maybe I'll ask a question on that. What do you guys think? Because I think that both those tags were quite different in their tone, in that they focused on the sorts of things, the sorts of ways in which men make themselves lonely, or the sorts of things we do which actually prevent us from, getting the connection that we would want, be it friendship or be it love. And it's kind of shooting ourselves in the foot a bit, right? So the traditional... Oh, sorry, I should give myself a time as well. The traditional model of masculinity based on domination, like one of the texts was mentioning, is kind of going against community, because it's hard to be, on the same level with everyone if what you're doing is you're trying to be on a level higher than everyone, right? And then also then there's this whole thing with nobody really knows me, and many people feeling like they're not part of the community and the community doesn't know them. But the question is then, well, what did you do to help them know you? Right? Did you actually come out to them and talk to them about things? And so many of those old manly stereotypes that, men don't talk about emotions, men don't get close to people and all of that, well, can very effectively prevent people from having others getting to know you, because how will they get to know you if you never open up to them? And yeah, I'm really quite interested in what you guys think about this, because and that also is kind of potentially related to the question of dating being fun or not being fun, and to whom. Because then if somebody is looking for this sort of connection and they are finding others who are not actually willing or being open to have this sort of connection because they're not in tune with their own love for themselves or emotions or whatnot, then, well, maybe it's not fun for them, to be seeking like relationships or friendships with these sort of people. So what I'm trying to get at in here is that I think that those two texts specifically, I find them interesting in that they highlight the ways in which we might be shooting ourselves in the foot by making ourselves the sort of people who are not fun for other people to date or to be friends with. Does that make sense? Jack, go on. Always first.
Yes, it definitely makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I think it makes sense, but it's not the complete picture.
Hmm.
Of course, there is no such thing as the complete picture. So I want to add another factor that is involved here. If if men were on an equal playing field in terms of their brand, the branding of men right now is not as positive as the branding of women right now. You can ask people, what do you think of when you think of men? Likely to hear some negative stuff. What do you think of when you think of women? Well, the zeitgeist is, well, you got to say they're strong and powerful and wonderful, and and I'm not saying they're not, but on the other hand, men do have sort of a deficit they need to overcome just to be seen as decent, just to be seen as okay. And so, when you want to put yourself out there to make friends with people who have no idea who you are, and you feel that you are being treated with great suspicion because your brand is that you're a man, and we all know how men are, that can get tiresome for some men. Not for all men, but for some men, that can just be very dispiriting and depressing and demoralizing. Why should I try? I tried to say something nice and it was completely misconstrued and they thought I was a beast. I think that that's at least a factor in the difficulties that men are dealing with.
Thanks very much. Robin?
Well, I want to say something else, but now, yeah, but it was about being alone. Well, so, yeah, I remember. So in the community, when I am in community, I feel that after some time, people just know who I am, and I also know who others are, and I've never felt that outside. And I don't think that in the city, as a big contrast, it's really possible, because you never really see someone else how he is in the city. You only see them for a few hours, once a week, maybe, or even just once. And during that time, usually they are wearing a mask. Either it's the work mask or the I want to impress you mask. And everyone, like, at home, they prepare to go to this event. They make themselves look nice and they get into the mood. And it's just, and if you live together in community, I mean, I can't really describe well, but it's such a different way. Yeah, I mean, you basically have to know how to make yourself look nice and interesting, and in a short amount of time in the city, and that's something that's not really useful to. I mean, that means you will not know that person. You will only know how good that person is in in playing this game, and that's not useful for anything in my eyes. Sorry.
Thanks very much for chipping in. Yeah, Patrick.
Yeah, thanks. I would actually like to get on that what you just said, Robert. So I'm having a little trouble understanding, because you kept mentioning the word community before already in the first half, and in my mind, I had this image of, like, in general, a community can be anything. Can be your neighborhood, can be your sports team, your book club, your whatever. But just to clarify that I understand you correctly, so with community, you mean sort of a rural farm, like shared farm commune kind of thing? Is that what you mean as a community?
Yes,
Okay.
spending a lot of time together. Yeah.
And have you lived in such an arrangement?
Yes,
okay.
I've lived in 10 of these already.
Okay, but okay, now I'm gonna but then why don't you anymore?
Because it's very hard to keep this. to keep it up, and most of them died or everyone had to leave.
Why?
Most of them were owned by one or two people, and that doesn't work. So I'm not the last one, and all the next ones will be commonly owned.
Okay, so you're planning actually to
I want to live in such a place, yes.
Yeah.
And also, the statistics say that 9 in 10 die within the first years.
Yeah. I read an article recently because I think it's among very successful, financially successful, for instance, like tech founders and people from the tech industry. It's sort of a this interest to go to live in such a arrangement. But then I read this article where often then they are disillusioned that reality is not as they romanticized in their head, which kind of like when you said, no, you lived in 10 of those instead of like, my idea, if I would live in something like that, I would hope that it's more permanent. And it actually brings me to the idea that maybe that is, I mean, I get the appeal. Actually, I find that attractive, to be honest. But I'm wondering if maybe there is a little bit of romanticization in that, and maybe like who says that you can't build a community living in a city, that you can reach out more to your neighbors, that you can have a book club, you can have like other initiatives where you kind of recreate that connection, that experience, that depth also, without this pressure of this geographical confinement. Let's say. What do you think?
I don't think that's possible. In my experience, it's not possible.
Why not, may I ask?
Just the thing of using the mask, for example, and also if it's a book club, for example, that's also always kind of a fleeing into this, this nice, happy space where you all are interested in the same thing, and it's not really sharing a life, which to me, community means sharing life and getting to see the person as a whole. Also their ugly parts and so on, and yeah, that's not possible in such a setting.
I think it's interesting, if I may jump in, from the perspective of what Robin started with, which is that when people meet in the sort of spaces that are designed to be about something, like a book club or a job or something else, they put on a mask. And they are not really fully themselves. They are kind of a persona that they want to project at others. And when we're on social media, we definitely do that a lot as well, right? Whereas I think it's interesting because if you kind of like really live with people and you see them not just in a book club, but you see them, I don't know, running around because they lost their pants or whatever, right? Then you see a different face of them. Or maybe it's more likely that you will see the real face of them. So I think that there is an interesting thing in that. And what I wanted to maybe draw your attention in that as well is that this is something that in the text was raised a little bit as well. And even in the previous one, in the previous set, which is the question of loneliness a personal question or a systemic question? Like, are we lonely because we personally fail at something, or we're not good enough at something and all that? Or are we lonely because we live in a society, or we use technologies, or we are systemically embedded in like systemic situations which just push us in this direction? Once again, who has the most fun? Well, Tinder has the most fun because they make the most money on this, right? But why? Well, because they created a system that we are all using. Yeah, I think it's really interesting from that perspective. Robin?
Yeah, for me, it's the system. There's no question for me, like you say. And it's not just since social media. I mean, the system always has an interest of divide and conquer, basically. They destroyed tribes, family, and separating to dominate and control. And create better slaves or whatever you want.
Harsh, Julian?
Yeah, I also believe that it's a systemic thing, because maybe also since very long, but if I imagine how people may have lived before we gathered in cities, or how people still live in more ancient forms of living in indigenous communities, etc. What comes to my head is that you actively have to do something wrong and be kicked out of society to be lonely, while this is not the case in modern world. I feel like here we have to work a lot to actually not be lonely. So, or partly so, but I think originally we were basically always surrounded by our tribe. May we had a tribe as a clan of gatherers and hunters, but I think this is how humans lived for the by far the biggest share of time, and that we find these modern ways of living is just maybe 7, 8, 9, 10,000 years that we may be more segregated, and this is how we but this is for me where the systemic question comes in. I think humans originally were like very social beings, and it's our society that really we live in different spaces in a big city, and this geographical aspect I think is a big point.
Yeah, thanks. Anyone wants to follow up on that? I think it's really interesting from a perspective of a value trade-off, because on one hand, yes, but on the other hand, if you live in this sort of community, you've got no privacy, for example, right? It's much harder to be an individual and all of that. So it's interesting how like the systems we build kind of give us something and take something away a little bit as well. It's really interesting. Jack, before I give you the flow, I just wanted to also kind of circle this down to the thing that you were raising before. You were talking about how difficult it is to go around, sorry, I'll give myself a timer as well, how difficult it is to go around feeling like men have this bad rep and you kind of need to fight against this bad rep and all that. I've written a text about this actually ages ago, which I called Guilty Before Proven Innocent. You know, in normal ways, you should be assumed innocent until proven guilty. But I think there is a certain way in which men, quite often, especially in the dating scene, are kind of assumed to be guilty, assumed to be creepy or potentially abusive or something like this, and they need to prove themselves to not be like that. And I think it sucks. It's really like, it's just a part of male existence these days, which is pretty horrible. I really dislike this. And I think it's really interesting from the perspective of what we were talking about a moment ago, which is the systemic approaches to things, which is, well, how do you prove that you're not that embedded in the systems that you are at? Like, well, if you're online dating, like nobody can check that in any way, right? I mean, anyone can write anything online. And the thing is, I think it's important in that to kind of also identify, well, why are we feeling that we're guilty, or why are we treated as guilty before proven innocent? Well, because the truth is that there is a minority of guys who are guilty, right? And who kind of, and you know, I think you can excuse anyone who has been abused once or twice for being suspicious about everybody else. So, you know, we need to take into account the fact that, well, somebody's just being cautious, right? They have a good reason to be cautious. And I think it's really interesting from the perspective of this, like living in a small community versus big community and how the systems are arranged. Because obviously if you live in a small community, then, well, you've got your reputation. People know you. People know what to expect of you. You're like, people will not assume you're guilty before you prove yourself innocent, because they know you. Right? But if you live in this massive city and you're just meeting people on an app or something like this, well, they have no idea who you are. So they need to be really cautious. right? And they cannot afford to, like, they will not know your reputation. They will not know where you're coming from. So they will be double cautious just in case, because there is a chance that you are actually, somehow problematic. So yeah, I like how it ties back together. But Jack, on to you.
Okay, Julian's number one.
I think, Julian, is this the hand that you had before? Did you? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. So I wanted to ask Robin, and all of you really, do you know the term slumber party? Okay, so in the States, when you're a kid, you might be somewhere between 8 and 12 years old, something like that. A slumber party is a sleepover with a whole bunch of kids. And they go to somebody's house and they all throw their pillows and blankets down on the floor of the family room, and they have a slumber party, and they're supposed to sleep at night, but they don't. They're having fun all night. And I'm wondering if what you're talking about in terms of a community, Robin, what's the essence of it, is that there's a very temporal characteristic of it. It's not just a little bit of time, like in this big city, when you decide that from 4 to 7 p.m. you're going to be in a book club, and I'm going to be performing for those 3 hours. Whereas in your community, it's 24/7, and like Simon said, there's a good chance somebody's going to see you naked, with your pants down, and that's one of the beautiful things of being in a community where you're not performing, you just are. I mean, you just give it up, because the truth about you is going to be revealed pretty soon. Does that ring true, that one of the things you liked about community is that you weren't on part of the time and off part of the, you're on all the time?
Yeah, you cannot wear a mask all the time. It's not, nobody can do that.
Yeah, and so that builds trust with everybody. Yeah.
Patrick?
Yeah.
Yes, thanks. It was great listening to all of you guys, and still I'm struggling with this idea, because just that you can only be authentic in this rural setting, because I'm wondering, isn't it up to the person how much you show? I mean, I get it, like corporate jobs, like there's no discussion there, of course, like the corporate environment is kind of forcing you to play a role. But even there, I can speak from my own experience. I'm not the ideal employee, actually, because I find it very hard putting on that mask. So just out of ease and simplicity, I tend to I'm just the same all the time. I mean, I can, like, if I'm giving a presentation, I will maybe make a little more of an effort. But actually, I don't wear a mask that much. Like, the more time you spend with me, no matter what environment, it's just who I am. So I get it that maybe there might be structures that kind of propose it, or promote it, putting on a mask. But maybe it could be actually a challenge, an invitation to take a more conscious effort to be more authentic. And I think there's even something to say that maybe that's being valued, authenticity as a quality. Like I don't like phony people. So I get what you mean, but I think it's possible to do that in that environment too. And actually, on something that you said, Simon, I think, with the privacy, just a little fun fact. I once listened to a podcast where someone coming from a nomadic tribe, like Bedouin tribe, went to the West, and he said his experience was he didn't have privacy now in the West because he was all alone. Like, his understanding of privacy was when he was in a tent with like 10 brothers and sisters. And so for him, that was privacy, being like basically being in the eyes of other people all the time, but people who you are close to, which always stuck with me, because it's such a contrary concept to, I think, how we in urban Western societies value or view privacy. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks. That's a good example. Robin?
Yeah, I wanted to respond to that, and it's true. You can also be authentic there in the city, but nobody can really know whether you're not authentic or not. I mean, there could be 10 people, maybe 2 of them are authentic, maybe all of them are authentic, but you can't really trust in that. And usually also if there are like 2 people that are not authentic, they will most likely overshine the others, because it makes sense to be not authentic in a way that's more shiny. So that's usually the case. And about the privacy thing, I don't think that's at all the case that you have less privacy. I mean, in almost all the communities, but you do have less anonymity, basically, or you don't have this possibility to not be seen if you don't want to be seen. Yeah.
All right. I've got some thoughts, but Julian, maybe you wanted to say something. I don't want to jump in too much too quickly.
Yeah, about this whole if we are wearing a mask or not, or I think also in the city we can develop quite a good sense of other people and if they are authentic or not. I think this is possible also outside of communities. Where I see the big difference is in the community that you, as you said, Robin, that you just spend so much time, and this is just difficult in the big city to share so much time when you don't live in the same place. So I think you can find authentic relationships in the city, but yeah, it's just more difficult to share the same amount of time. Maybe you move in a big shared flat and then you have a community in the city, or I don't know, or your family is your community where you live all the time together, or maybe you have very good friends that you just see 3-4 times a week or 2 times a week or maybe once a week, and you feel really close to them. I think this can also be fine, but yeah, this is my take on community in a city. So I think it's possible to be authentic in a city and to recognize whether others are authentic in a city. I think this is possible.
Yeah, thanks. I'm going to jump in quickly before I pass on to you, Patrick. I think that it's important to remember also that like we're creating a dichotomy in here between the kind of community life and city life. And it's not black and white, of course, right? It's not like you have all of the authenticity in here and none of the authenticity in here. It's a matter of degree, right? And you can obviously arrange your life in the city in such a way that you will have more of it. You can, live close to your friends. You can see your friends often. You can, I don't know, be friends with your workmates, or you can also live in a village community or whatever and be quite recluse and not actually see people, right? So I think it can go both ways. It's important to not see it like as super black and white. I really like the example with the privacy and the nomadic, the person from this nomadic tribe. And I think this goes really to show how much the systems that we're embedded in determine our thinking. It's once again kind of like it's determined systemically whether we see ourselves as able to be in a community or lonely or something like that. So that was really interesting. But the main point I wanted to raise was about this kind of wearing or not wearing a mask and how this can prevent us from being of feeling lonely or not feeling lonely. And once again, that also shows that it's not so black and white. You can perfectly well wear a mask while you're in a very small community as well, right? You just never let people in. And I think this is actually kind of bringing this back to the question of men and masculinity, because while it's part of, the manly thing to always appear stronger than you are, right? Or always kind of be more, it's wearing a mask. Yeah? It's kind of not letting people in. So I think that in some way, I also think this comes back to this potentially shooting ourselves in the foot thing, right? Where we are ourselves kind of taking ourselves out of opportunities for making real connections with people because we feel compelled to wear this mask of I don't know, of an alpha male, or the mask of like a really dominant person, or like someone who's going up the hierarchy, or someone who's a great protector and provider, or whatever else, and kind of desperately not wanting to let people see us with our pants down, while maybe seeing us with our pants down is exactly what would create the connection that we're craving. Huh? Anyway, I'll pass it on to you, Patrick.
Thank you, Simon. My plan initially was to talk about the two articles, but well, now I want to jump on what you were saying. I want to make a case for masks, but like differentiate it a little bit. So I think I get the idea that like being trapped in a mask and not being able to ever let it down, I think that is destructive. But what I would like to propose is that maybe that's just part of growing up, maturing, and taking more and more responsibility. Let's say in the community, where you maybe become like you also take a role as a patriarch or like even also as a woman. Like that's not even a gendered issue. I think women can also be required to wear a mask, where I think it's what the situation demands from you. Like when like I will come back to the male perspective because it's just closer to me. But let's say you're a firefighter. Maybe your job requires you to, for a moment, to be able to wear that mask to fulfill your job, and that can also be as a mother. Maybe when your child is screaming and you have to get up and breastfeed it, maybe that's not what you want, like from your authentic perspective, because it's exhausting, it's stressful, or maybe the baby has trouble getting the milk, or like all of that you can imagine, but you don't let your unfiltered, authentic, which would be maybe authentic emotions out to punish the child or the husband who's still trying to be supportive. So maybe it's not about not having masks, because I think masks, there's a place for masks, but maybe it's about finding a sophisticated, differentiated approach where you know when to wear the mask to fulfill what's asked from you, asked of you by the situation, by maybe the people that you're responsible for, but then also having a safe space afterwards, outside of that, where you can regenerate, where you can do that. Because like, who would want a politician, a leader who is emotionally unstable? So that's my case in favor of masks. What do you guys think? Am I out of my mind? Jack is laughing.
Yeah, may I, Simon? Yeah, no, I think you're right on point, Patrick. When you're in a crisis and you are in a group of people who have not been organized for any purpose, and chaos could ensue in the face of this emergency or crisis that you're facing, you would like to have somebody who projects some sense of confidence, even though they're scared out of their wits too, but they say, we can do this. And that can be life-saving. So yeah, it's not all one or the other.
I'll quickly jump in on this. I'm really curious what you guys think, because this is an argument that is brought up quite often, which is the kind of like for the stoic manliness, of like not being too emotional, because in a situation of crisis, it's needed that you put your emotions away and you kind of like do all of that. And on one hand, I think that is in many situations true. On the other hand, I also think that a lot of conflict in the world happens because people have something to prove and they put on a mask and don't actually engage, emotionally. Like if you think of, I don't know, I wish Putin was a bit more in tune with his emotions and had a bit less of a mask on him, maybe the kind of, a lot of the conflict that we have, like big conflict, would not really be there if people didn't have, a big mask on their face and something to prove. And it's actually, this is a crisis situation, right? You kind of need to put your boots on and go to the front and fight. But maybe actually it would be better if we didn't. So I think it's a nuanced issue again, you know? It's like sometimes yes, but sometimes... Robin, you were raising your hand.
I wanted to ask, Simon, do you live in the US or where are you from?
Me, I live in Berlin.
Ah, okay. Because my brother lives in the US, and I heard that there this thing of men being very manly is much more a thing than over here, I think. And I never saw much experience. I notice it sometimes when men are in the presence of women, but in general, I have never felt so.
Robin, may I ask, where do you live? Just so I can put it in context.
Berlin, yeah.
Oh, also, okay.
It's interesting. I also get more of this from the US than from Europe. I think Europe is generally a bit more relaxed in those, maybe. I don't know. Would need to see some stats. Jack, do you have an opinion as a US citizen?
I think that the culture of the old American West is still very much alive, especially in certain regions of the country. You know, where it was up until 150 years ago, it was, you know, it was chaos. There was not a whole lot of civilization. There might be a marshal in the next town over who could, you know, sort of establish some semblance of law and order. But, you know, the idea of being the rugged individualist, for instance, is very much an ethic of the cowboy. And I think that that's very American, you know, not to our benefit in most cases.
I think it's once again an example of how the systems we're embedded in determine kind of how we are as well, right? And yeah, it can also determine such personal things as, you know, it kind of trickles down, right? There is the system tells you how you're meant to be, when you're meant to wear the mask, when you're not meant to wear the mask, and that ends up in determining whether you feel lonely or not. So thanks guys for a great and interesting discussion. We're at the end of our time for today. I think we could be going forever, but this has been really interesting, and I feel like we've kind of really got on with it. So thank you for your presence and for such interesting thoughts. So I'm gonna finish it here because we need to finish somewhere. If you want to join us again at the next session, that would be absolutely fantastic. And for now, I will just say, yeah, follow us on Instagram, LinkedIn, on YouTube, check out the website, pathforge.org, sign up to the newsletter, comment on the videos, suggest more, and suggest more topics for and readings for the next future meetings as well. I've got some plans for what I'd like to do on the future meetings, but if you have suggestions, that would be absolutely fantastic. And yeah, it will be kind of a different topic every time. Maybe we'll come back to some topics if they're particularly interesting. But I think it will be interesting also to explore different topics. So I'm going to now just ask you if you guys have any feedback as to how the session went. And I see Jack already has his hand up, so please go on.
Yes, but before you get away, and before we all go back to our individual lives, I'm looking for where's the thumbs up signal.
Is there?
There's reactions where is that?
Somewhere. I can do that. I don't know. Could you have
how do you do that?
Do you see the smiley
button?
Like
a smiley thing. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, maybe I got to lift up my window a little bit. No, I'm not seeing.
No?
I'm not seeing it. No, I mean,
close to the hand.
Imagine a thumbs up from me.
Yeah,
okay?
we can send for you in your name.
Thank you. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Nice.
Thank you, Simon. Thank you, gentlemen.
Well, thanks very much all for joining. Like I say,
Yeah.
This is the first time I'm running this. Thank you so much for being the brave ones who are, going in the wild west of online discussions on those topics. So yeah, I will be posting this online. I'd like to basically, take this opportunity to open the discussion to more people as well. Maybe people will be commenting on the video. If you guys have any thoughts that come up after this as well, please feel free to comment on the video. That would be fantastic. It kind of also creates a bit of traffic, and I'm hoping to promote the initiative that I started in here with Pathforge. It's nice to have a little bit more buzz around the whole topic. I will be trying to promote this as well by cutting out little bits from this video and putting them on Instagram or somewhere else. So I hope that's all okay with you. If you notice anything that I know somehow you'd like taken down or anything like that, please let me know. That is all doable as well. But I hope that I don't think we've been saying anything that would get anyone cancelled in here or anything like this. So I think that it's probably all fine. But yeah, let me know. Obviously, it's like I want to respect all of your privacies and needs in here as well. Patrick? Oh, you froze. Frozen with a hand up. Well, while we're waiting for Patrick, any other thoughts and suggestions, guys? Was there anything that you would like that comes to mind now? If not, then that's fine as well. You can comment later, but...
I also really enjoyed it. Thank you, guys. Very, perfect characters. I don't know how to say. Mix.
It's good to have a variety of opinions as well. All right, Patrick is back. You disconnected for a moment, Patrick, and now we can't hear you, but please feel free to ask if you have something to say.
You can hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, I got disconnected, Well, I just wanted to give you feedback. That's a great initiative. Thanks for all the effort. Actually, I'm super curious from a technical point, what kind of template you were using for the PowerPoint, like with these timers and all this. Like that's super professional, and I would be actually curious but I will get back to in afterwards in private. It's a great organization, great people that you were able to bring together. Like I don't know what made you, Jack, join us from the different time zone, but I'm so grateful for you doing that, because I think that's really what we need: this intergenerational exchange and support. So that's wonderful. I'm just wondering, if a bit of constructive suggestion. Okay, I'm gonna wait for Simon, because actually it's aimed at Simon. Maybe he ordered some pizza.
I'm really sorry. I just had someone knocking on my door. Please, constructive suggestion. I heard, and I was already halfway through when you said that. So apologies. I wasn't running away from criticism.
Oh no, pizza delivery, or what was it? We were wondering. No, what I was gonna say is, I really like your approach about the whole structure. Like that's super professional and all. I'm just wondering if, I felt a little bit like with this 2 minute. I mean, it makes sense. I don't know. There's always, I'm also organizing a meetup, so there's always this danger of people hijacking the conversation. I get that. I just feel like also sometimes people are less extroverts, so they don't even want that much speaking time. So then I think, my approach is that I tend to give a little more time, because I don't want to restrict people, and I'm actually curious. Often these most interesting ideas and thoughts emerge by letting someone talk freely without restricting them too much. So I know it's an uncomfortable position as the host to find the right balance between structure and freedom. I personally would appreciate a little more time, because sometimes it takes me a moment to get into what I'm trying to say, but maybe that's just my perspective. So I'm really happy with that. And again, really well executed, well done, and it speaks to you that you were able to attract such a wide, colorful range of interesting people who wanted to spend time together. So
thanks.
Hats off to you.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, thank you very much. And second, yeah, interesting feedback. I was trying not to cut people out, even if you guys going a little bit over the 2 minutes. So, but I don't know how the others felt about that as well. So, let me know. And with respect to my PowerPoint and the template that I was using for this, the template is called 2 days spent on creating a PowerPoint. So I have put this myself together. So I have no template to share, I'm afraid. But thank you. I appreciate the praise. Robin?
For me, it's the opposite. I really, really like this 2-minute thing. I would like to have it always. I even tried to introduce something like this myself in some meetings. I didn't manage to do it. I think